So you guys all know Michael Phelps, one of probably the greatest Olympic athlete ever. So the year that they actually had it over in Beijing, he started swimming over there in one of the pools. His caloric intake, right, which is the energy that you'd burn normally, right? His caloric intake and his calorie burn went from 8,000, like 7,500 to 8,000, all the way to 10,000. 10,000 calories he was burning a day. He didn't change up his routine. He didn't change up anything that else he was doing. You know what the difference was?
Pool was colder.
The pool was 4 degrees colder. That's the only thing. So that just goes to show you that that's what happens when you get into cold water, is what it does for your calorie burn, right?
Welcome to Full Fueled with your host, Matt Tack,
Alfred Alessi.
Dr. Alfred Alessi.
I always forget the doctor.
Come
I feel
on,
weird
man.
saying like, oh, Dr. Alessi.
We're so
It's all
excited
good.
to have a guest on our podcast today.
Yes.
We have Josh Kalinowski. Honestly, he's in Wyoming, which is awesome. So thanks for taking the time today. But he has grown a conglomerate of a roofing company, a real estate company, but also is an inventor of an awesome new product called the Chili Pod, which is going to change the game in how we go about cold plunging on a daily basis. I'm a massive fan of cold plunging.
Oh, yeah.
It's something that I've operated in my routine, obviously, as I've aged, and there's been insane amount of benefits across the board that we're going to dive into. But welcome, Josh, to the podcast.
Hey, appreciate it, gentlemen. It's going to be fun. Looking forward to this for sure.
I met you at the Wellspring event over there in Jacksonville with Tim Tebow and Pete Vargas. It was awesome because he wore a shirt that had the Chili Pod on it. I was like, dude, this guy's branding out. I was like, what is
Heck
a
yeah.
Chili Pod? It had a penguin on it. And I'm like, and I literally, I'm just like over the moon with like just straight cold plunging, cold water. I love that immersion piece and what it's done for me from health benefits. And so I had to go over and ask him.
Yeah.
Found out what it was. He's like, yeah, man, I'm working on a really cool product that's going to change the game. So let's just dive into that.
Yeah.
How did you come up with the idea, number one, of like, and you're not in that industry, so tap into the kind of the backstory of how this all originated.
So, well, a couple of years ago, I was actually having a great conversation with a really close friend, and I was talking about some of the ailments that I was experiencing personally. We're in Wyoming. It gets cold as heck here. I'm not a cold weather guy, even though I live in this great state. Kind of more of a California mindset kind of a guy. Like we keep our house at San Diego warm, 74 degrees throughout the year. And that causes some issues because obviously, I mean, we're dealing with, minus 40 degree weather sometimes, or we're dealing with ice and snow and sleet and all the fun, wonderful experiences that you can imagine in beautiful Wyoming here. And so one of the challenges that I was facing was that the tips of my fingers were getting just consistently numb because they just didn't have a lot of blood flow. And so I was having, my extremities were being cold, my toes were cold. And so as we were talking about this, he had mentioned about this gentleman that I'm sure that you guys are all aware of, a guy named Wim Hof. And so he'd asked me, he's like, hey, well, have you ever done Wim Hof? Have you ever taken like a cold shower? And I'm like, hell no, I don't need to go take a cold shower. I'm not going to, that sounds like horrible. I'm already cold. Why would I go and submerge myself and get even colder?
Yeah.
And so he kind of walked me through the science of it and why this has actually been so beneficial for him. And so I went and signed up. I did the Wim Hof challenge, basically. So you start off with a 30-second shower, and then you work your way all the way up to a 10-minute cold shower. And I got to tell you, as much as I didn't like the process, the benefits of the process were so amazing for myself. And so that, of course, obviously opened up my world to breathing, which is another thing, of course, that Wim Hof teaches, but just the opportunity to sit down and meditate and breathe in the morning. And then also, once again, just the cold, just at that time, it was the cold showers. And then that got me into, I'm starting to do some research on cold plunging and cold therapy. And so I got into cold therapy. My first venture was getting a trough, because at that time there wasn't a lot of products out there in the space, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't want to invest thousands of dollars because I was just starting to get into it. And so one of the gals at our office, one of the companies that we have is real estate, and she's got a ranch, and so she's got cows and horses and chickens and every type of animal that you could imagine what you'd have on a ranch. And she had a trough that she wasn't using. And so I actually asked her, I was like, hey, would you mind? Could I take the trough? And so my first experience was actually in a trough. And I got to tell you, like the opportunity to go into a cold therapy plunge as opposed to a shower is so much more beneficial, to be honest with you, that it really got me on a great routine. And it also really got me doing this more and more because I was just seeing the benefits of it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That's crazy. So did you have to break the ice every morning? Like it would freeze over and you'd break the ice? Like there's a guy on Instagram right now that did 365 days. You got to slay him the ice. I think he's in Canada. Is that something you'd have to do?
Eventually. So what ended up happening is I realized, about 6 months into it, I realized some of the challenges that's in the industry as a whole. Right. And that was really the motivation of why we designed the product that we designed, is because we saw so many flaws in it. Right. Every morning, especially during the summertime, I mean, we have beautiful weather in the summer and the fall here in Wyoming. And so during the summertime, it would heat up. And so really what ended up happening is, because we had such warmer temperatures in the summer, I'd go out into this trough and the temperature would be a balmy 75 degrees. Well, that's bath water, right? So it defeats the purpose of getting into cold therapy, right?
Yeah.
I'd have to scrape off the bugs that were collected from the night before, the leaves that fell into it. And I'll never forget, like, this is what made me actually invest into what I have currently right now, which is the ice barrel. As I woke up one morning, I'm getting ready to get in. Of course, I'm excited to get in because I've gotten to this point in my routine that I just love it. It's a part of my day. I'm getting ready to get in the trough, and there's a dead bird in my trough. And I'm like, first I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, do I remove it? And then I'm a second like, well, what if it's not dead? Like, what if it's still alive? And I go to pick it up and it starts freaking out. Right. So I had a really big kind of a come to Jesus moment with myself. I was like, is it really worth it to not invest in something that has a lid? So that actually got me from actually going, okay, I got to get rid of the trough and I got to invest in something that hopefully that has got some high quality to it. And that's when I bought, at that time, the ice barrel.
That's awesome, man. Well, so you were saying that, like a lot of that was the problems you experienced with this trough, you don't want to take baths with the dead bird. What makes the chili pod different from some of these other products that are on the market, or what's kind of your approach there?
Yeah. So what we recognized really fast in the industry that as a whole was just a couple of things. One is either the product was so cheap that it was not very efficient at all. Right. So a lot of them, you have to, you blow them up. And so the sidewalls are weak, so you can't maneuver in and out of it very well. And then even those ones right there are so small. So if you're an average, let's just say you're a 6-foot guy, 180 pounds, 190 pounds, you can't get submerged into these smaller ice buckets. And then, of course, obviously, then there's the extreme. So there's nothing in between either. So you're either spending $100 on something, right, that's going to last you potentially maybe the summer, because something's going to happen. You're gonna break it. You're gonna bend it. It's gonna get a hole in it. It's gonna get punctured. Something's gonna happen. It always does. Or you've got to go into what now is, the cold plunge, which is like $7,000, right? And I'm like, I don't need a second mortgage on this. I don't need, like, that's more money than I'm spending on my son's first car, right? And so it was a huge pain point in the sense of just the financial cost of this as well too. And so as we were looking at developing our chili dip, what we wanted to do was, one is affordability was huge for us. Yeah. I met so many people that want to do cold therapy. So many people want it, but they do not want to spend $7,000 on something that could potentially just be a fad for them, right? Now, more than likely, we know that it's not going to be a fad. They're going to continue to do this because they see the benefits of it. But just to get into it and make that type of a financial commitment, I think is asking a lot of somebody. So financially, to be able to make this affordable for the average Joe person was a huge thing for us. The second thing is that I realized in this industry, for people in our cold weather areas, or even I had a lot of people that were down south in Florida and in California, not having an insulated tub or insulated cold plunge is a huge factor because of the amount of heat that will come into that. And of course the inconsistency with temperature. Now you have the addition to have a cooler, a chiller with it too. And so when we have an option for that as well too, but we wanted to make sure that we had a product that was going to be viable, that was going to make it consistent for you, regardless if you added a chiller or not. And so we're going to be one of the first products out there that actually is insulated for cold weather and for hot weather as well too. So you can have some consistency in it. the ease and access as well too. To getting into the chili dip is another vital aspect as well too. And because this is a personal thing that for me, because my father's 72 years old. His body's been breaking down on him. He's got knee replacements, shoulder replacements. He's a little bit overweight right now, where it's not easy for him to just get around in general. And so, like the ice barrel that I have, there's absolutely no way that he's able to get into that. And if he did finally get into it, there's no way he's getting out of it. Right. I mean, that's the hard fact of it. I've got children that love it. My daughters absolutely love getting into to cold therapy. This is just, they're just mentally tough. Awesome. Now my boys, I can't even get them to like put their ankle in. So they're not nearly as tough as our girls are. But even our girls, they have I have to lift them up into this barrel, right, in order for them to get in. And then I have to lift them out of it as well, too. And so we wanted to have ease of access, because it shouldn't just be for athletes. It shouldn't be for those that are, physically fit and able to get in. It should be for everybody, whether you're at a young age or you're at a mature age, where maybe the body at that time really needs cold therapy. Those are just a couple of them. I could go into probably about 6 or 7 more, but those are probably, I would say, the biggest things that we're doing and we're tackling. And I do really feel like those are the things that are going to really change this industry and what we're going to be able to provide for people.
Yeah, that's huge. One thing I want to correct, just for like our audience too, I called it the chili pot. It's a chili dip. So my bad.
I got it on the hat. Chili dip right there, brother.
Chili dip. And then to give another visual is, basically what they're creating right now is like a good size Yeti cooler for the human body, essentially, right? That they're able to clasp, shut down, but then they're able to roll away. If you give a visual of like maybe, I hate to even visualize this, but like an oversized trash can, right? With a seat in it, that's a Yeti cooler that has a lid that comes down that you can protect the water, and you can obviously, but it's insulated enough where you can utilize it every day.
Temperature is not going to affect it. Yeah.
But you could exactly that, and that's a big thing, because to be honest with you, even with my plunge that I use every day, it'll probably be more affected. That chiller in that tub will be more affected by the range in Florida of the hot and cold than what the chili dip will, because it's not the tub itself is not incredibly well insulated. So then during 90-degree weather, 100-degree weather, my chiller's running.
Can't keep up.
It has a very like lack thermal cover to it, where it's not clamped down. It doesn't hold heat, or it doesn't hold the coldness extremely well. So I've even seen that in mine. I'm like, I paid a small mortgage for this plunge. And now I'm paying it extra on the mortgage or on the electric bill as well, because of the fact that it can't hold. You can upgrade your covers, but at the same time, it still won't hold the same capacity as what like that Yeti, right, would, or that cover that would thermally insulate that. So that's that's next level. And what they're doing, and I'm selling this even further because I love the idea of the seat, right? And I think you had mentioned that. But that's to get the ease of use, the step up and the step out, that allows you to use it with efficiency. Because I would love for my parents or somebody else to be able to try it out. My mother's going through cancer right now. I'm like, I doubt she would do it long term, but I'm like, I would love for you just to experience how you feel if you truly could make that a habit. It's next level. What it does for the body. Can you just talk? You had tapped into it for a minute, but I wanted to see like the outcome. So it sounded like you had a little neuropathy, maybe in your hands and your feet. I would like to hear kind of like the before and after of that, and then how long did it take? What was that process? What did that look like?
Honestly, so going through Wim Hof was just a great experience overall, because of what it did for me, mentally. So the first part of it, I think a lot of it is just that mental fortitude that I think that a lot of us are looking for, especially if you are, an athlete, or that maybe you're just continuing to trying to stay physically fit. You're always looking for the next challenge. And so many of our challenges, even though they appear to be physical, they're very mental, right? Right. And then as you get older, once again, I just kind of go to my father's age. He's looking for the mental challenges that he can continue to put himself through, because he can't necessarily do the physical challenges anymore. And so just that daily mental challenge of getting into the uncomfortableness, right?
Yeah.
That for me was big. I mean, I really started to take on this mentality of I'm going to tackle the hardest thing that I need to do today, which is the uncomfortableness of getting into cold therapy. And what it made me do is it allowed me to be able to do something. And listen, the body doesn't know the difference between stress that comes from the outside, right? So from outside sources, or stress that comes from yourself, right? Like you intentionally put yourself through stress. It just sees stress.
Yeah.
And so the more that we can voluntarily put ourselves under controlled stress, the better we're going to be able to deal with it throughout the day.
Amen.
And so that mentality for me was, I'm going to put myself under extreme stress at the very beginning of the day that I'm controlling. So when I go and I show up into my businesses and I do have challenges and I have challenging business partners, I have challenging people that I'm dealing with the other day, it's not nearly going to be as stressful because I've already done some extreme things in the morning that were under self-control, right? So I think that's a vital, important part of why cold therapy is important at the very beginning. And then once again, just the side effects is what I was experiencing that was even more beneficial. I got to the point where, as about halfway through, I started noticing that the thermal temperature within my body was able to go outside with a t-shirt on in 40-degree weather, 45-degree weather, and be comfortable.
Yeah.
Like, I still don't prefer to be out in the cold weather. I'll put a
Yeah.
jacket on, but the fact that I can do it, the fact that I can be outside and my body is not going into complete shock to a certain point, right? Because, one of the things that happens when you start doing cold therapy is that you get that vasospasm, right? So your arteries start to constrict and through all of your extremities because you're basically your body's going, okay, it's shutting down. I got to start putting all that blood to the vital organs in your body, which the two most important vital organs that it goes to is your heart and your brain, right? So the more that you do that, the faster your body reacts to that. And so once again, cold therapy, when you can do it consistently, it allows you to have that blood flow go right to your heart and right to your brain. So you have a little more cognitive response. Your blood starts pumping your heart starts pumping even more blood. And of course, there's just a tremendous amount of other benefits when we start talking about brown fat, the protein synthesis that happens within the body. I mean, there's, like I said, the litany of this is actually pretty mind-boggling if you think about like all of the other things that happen from it. And this is the thing that's been fun for me, is to discover all the benefits of cold plunging that I didn't even know were happening.
Yeah.
But now I get to realize, like, oh, this is why I feel this way. This is why I'm recovering this way. This is why I react in these situations. So it's a great, new, awesome world to be venturing into, for sure.
It's not that 40 degrees outside is any less 40 degrees, right? It's still the same temperature. Your internal response, that stress response like you're talking about, is more adapted. I talk about this all the time with like our body's ability to heal it's just miraculous, right? And if we can get rid of the outside things that are holding that back, or if we can hack it, right? This is like what we talk about like with biohacking, right? You're hacking your body's stress response to be more adapted to that. That's awesome. And so you is your background in engineering or like anything like that? I mean, you don't have much of that, but then you developed this product. What were some of the, like, because you're trying to change this market that has kind of always been done the same way, or like there's, like you said, there's two different spectrums: a super expensive high level product, or this like kind of junky, like I might as well jump in a trash can full of ice water product. Like,
Right.
And you're trying to create something in the middle at a price range that's affordable, but it also is very technologically like advanced, What were some of the difficulties there, man, creating that?
Knowing what was been happening in this industry for the last couple of years, the biggest challenge, honestly, that we had to overcome was who would we partner in order to build this. And what I didn't want to do too, like, listen, I'm a proud American and I love to buy American made products, right? And so what we didn't want to do is outsource potentially what this could look like. And so I hesitated for a long time trying to figure out the right partnership. And we found an amazing company actually that's in Casper, Wyoming. They're competitors with Yeti. These guys are called Wild Gear. We've been using their product in a lot of our other groups that we have. And they are awesome. These guys are amazing guys to deal with. They have an amazing product as well too. And so the conversation started happening around of the fact that they were going to start to kind of branch outside and not just do their coolers and not do their drinkware that they do now. And once we started having this conversation about what we wanted to provide, they're like, dude, that perfectly aligns with what we can do. at what we're really, really good at and what we want to get into as well too. So
That's awesome.
it just happened to be an amazing partnership. And so one of the reasons why I think this product is going to be so good for the industry is one is that there's obviously extreme passion behind it from myself. And I got two other business partners that love and understand and appreciate cold therapy. The other thing is that the partnership and how we're building this product is from people that are passionate about products like this: weatherproof, insulated, hardy, American built, great warranties behind them. Just the quality of the product. So when you can align both of those well, you know that you've got something out there that's pretty special. Because, one of the other things in this industry, as you know well too, is like, if you want a product, especially if you're going to end up paying, a decent amount of money for this, you're 6-8 weeks out, you might be 3 or 4 months out because they're waiting for another shipment coming in from China in order for them to get the product to you. Literally, when you sign up and you order your product from us, we will have that to you within 10 days because we build it specifically for you in the great state of Wyoming, and it ships to you within a couple of days. So you're getting an amazing American-made product, which I'm absolutely over the moon about as well too.
I love that. I would pay more for stuff like that, right? For like that concept of it's made here in this country by hardworking people that have like value, right? Like people with like important, with good morals, right? Like I personally do pay more for that kind of stuff. And I think a lot of people are like that too, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, what's your routine? Do you do morning or night?
Great question. Because I kind of do both depending on like really where I'm at in the week. For the most part, Monday through Friday, I like to do it in the mornings because it's just a part of that routine for me to wake up and get myself prepared for the day.
Yeah.
But I love to do it in the evenings or the late afternoons on the weekend. I'll also do my infrared therapy as well too.
Okay.
Typically on that, depending on how rushed I'm in the morning. My sequence is usually cold therapy, and then I go into my infrared sauna. I haven't been able to do the infrared sauna here for the last couple of months just because of the routine and how it's all just kind of been changed up because of the amount of workload that I've got that I'm under. So the weekends are amazing for that because once again with cold therapy too, it's weird how it can work in two different ways, right? It can, if you do it in the morning, it can wake you up. Right. And it does a great job of that. But it also, if you do it in the evenings and right before bed, it actually puts you to sleep as well, too. It helps you get to that ketosis. Right. It just depends on what you want. I think the really thing that's an interesting question that I've been studying more and really trying to figure out, and I've gotten a lot of great feedback on like what you're supposed to do is, do you cold plunge before a workout or do you do it after a workout? And so I actually would love to know your guys' thoughts. Have you guys looked into like if it's better to do it before, better to do it after? And I've got some response on this, but I would just love to know like what your thoughts would be initially on that.
So I've been toying around. And the reason why I ask you is at night is because I've actually just changed things up, but just a little bit because I'm trying to understand my body a little bit more. What's cool about this whole process of like obviously cold plunging is you become so in tune with your body. That's what I love about like really understanding the ebbs and flows of how my body is working. Yeah. And so for the past, I would say about 5 months, I've been doing it pre-workout. So I'm actually, my subthermal state, I'll try to get as low as possible. And then obviously I'll heat up during my workout. And I saw a lot of value into that. So, however, there's a few things that I feel like I'm a truly experienced cold plunger at this point. One thing that I noticed is that I'm like, you know what? I want to gauge on where kind of my cortisol levels are at because one of the big things is when you get early in the morning, if you aren't letting your body wake up, I was getting in right when I wake up at about 5 o'clock in the morning, between 5 and 5:15. And so I would spike my cortisol levels like dramatically, right? And so I'm like, I don't know, like I want to engage different ways. One of the big things for me is maintaining digestion. So like digestion is just a really big crucial thing. And so I was like, oh, wonder if I try this a little bit later at night, see number one, how I sleep, but also how that aids in digestion because my largest meal is always dinner. And so I started doing it at night just very recently, a little bit later at night. I've seen my quality of sleep take up a little bit more. I've also seen digestion work really, really, really well the following day. And so that was like, that's kind of like the key thing for me. I know everybody's body is a little bit differently, but I've adjusted it ever so slightly. of not doing it. Although I did do it this morning because I said this in our last podcast too. We've been running the courts in Tampa Bay. We're big basketball guys, and last night we were running the courts.
Maybe a little too much.
And we played our fifth game, and my body was like, I don't know about this. So, but honestly, I just took a shower, and then this morning I woke up, and I'm like, I definitely need to get in this tub right now.
Yeah.
So I did hop in the tub this morning, but it is one of those things where digestion it really is a really big thing, because as you said, you're pumping blood to the extremities. It goes into the fight or flight, right? So it goes into your main two organs, being your brain and your heart. But then when you get out, obviously blood's flowing just in every single direction. And I describe it like this, because it was honestly the best imagery that I could do for myself. But when my babies were born, I got 3 girls. When my babies were born, they were nice and pink. Their bodies were in fight or flight mode because they had to produce oxygen for the first time, right?
Yeah.
And so they were breathing and they were figuring the world out. And when you self-impose that on your body, I'm nice and pink when I'm coming out of that cold plunge. And that's how I feel like my body is, like I'm rebirthing my body almost every time I come out.
That's cool.
So that was just the imagery that I give myself. I give myself a rebirth. It's almost every day. And then obviously being a kingdom-focused guy like yourself, I'm like, that's what I do to protect this temple that God's given me. And so, but that was the main thing, is I'm shifting it towards a little bit later in the day. Sleep is one big thing, but digestion is another big thing, because I saved that big meal for later in the day. And it's just really given me a really great routine for that. So anyways, not to get off on
and
the
I
trail.
think the answer to that question is also like there's benefits on both ends. Like there is the benefit before and there's the benefit after.
Yeah.
My approach to like health, nutrition, working out, everything is like being adaptable and versatile. Like, so like you want to be able to do it some days before, some days after, some days in the morning, some days at night. You like the same way we talked about, you want to do strength workouts for a month and then do more cardio workouts for a month and then do some sport for a month. Like your body then is more, that novelty stimulus is better for your body's adaptability. So that's my take on that. I don't have a plunge. I right now I just don't have the space for it. I live in a condo, but down the line, unless we're gonna get this is my guy. I'm getting a chili dip.
Actually, Matt and I were talking about this. I had this conversation with so many people, because I actually, prior to being able to have the opportunity to build this chili dip, I mean, I really did look into the cold plunge. I was like, okay, I love it so much. I can justify spending that amount of money. I don't want to. But the other thing is like, I don't have a dedicated spot for it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have a place to put this. Like, I'm not going to put it in where my infrared sauna is. I have that downstairs in our storage room. I like to be outside, especially in the spring and the fall, summer. Like, oh my gosh, there's no better. We got a great view of the mountains. Like, it's just awesome and epic to be outside. I have no place to do it, because I also, in the wintertime, I bring it into our garage because it is so cold.
Yeah.
I need to have at least a little bit of a tempered temperature. And so just to figure out like where I would put that, the cold plunge, because of it's a bath, right?
Yeah.
I don't know where I put it. So one of the things that we did on this is that we designed it for people, residents of people that live in apartments and condos. And so our dimensions are able to fit in a normal door. So we're 33.5 inches wide. A door is 34 inches wide, right? And so our product design, since we knew we had a limitation on how wide we could go, we had to make sure our depth and our length of it and our height of it was going to be proportional for an average 6'2", 195-pound guy. That's like that. I went off of that type of a model. And so just what you're talking about, like we wanted accessibility for everybody, right? So that you could take this and you could put this on your balcony, right? You could use this in your condo. And then we also obviously have an extension, so you put a hose to it so that you can get rid of the water as well too. Like there's a lot of things that we did, and we engineered this specifically so that it would be able to be used by an array of people. That's also why it's movable. Right. We wanted to make sure, like, because there's no cold plunges out there right now, ice therapies right now that you actually have wheels and you can actually move it. You have to deflate it for some of them, or you have to do what I do with this ice barrel that I have. You have to pick it up and carry it or roll it. So one of the other reasons why we did that. But I do want to go back to this. We kind of highlighted, why we do this at night. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. So they've done enough studies on this that when you do cold therapy, when you do submersion, especially when you do water, right? Because water has a 29% more thermogenic than like air. Okay. So it's like, that's why you can get hypothermia when you're in a 72-degree pool, as opposed to you're not going to get hypothermia when you're in 72 degrees of weather
Yeah.
outside, right? Your body. So if people are considering like, hey, listen, I'm doing cold showers, I don't know why I'd want to do this, because you're going to get that much more of the results coming from it, right? So you'll increase the benefits of what cold therapy does for you if you do it in a plunge.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that it also gets you the closest to your delta waves when you sleep. And we know that delta waves when you sleep is that deep sleep. That's when your body rejuvenates and that's when it repairs itself. So that's another reason why when you do it right before bed, it actually puts your body into the closest that it would ever get to a delta wave, you know, delta wave state. And it allows you, once you do go to sleep, to get back into that actually faster and easier. So just another point that I thought that was fascinating about what the body's able to do when you put it under the right conditions.
In the past, I had done like those whole body cryo chambers where you step in there and you're basically walking into like a meat fridge, dude. But like this, the benefits of the being in the water, what you're saying is 30% more effective than the air.
Yeah, this is, so let me tell you a quick story, like, cause just to maybe put it in a reality of this, right? So you guys all know Michael Phelps, one of probably the greatest Olympic athlete ever. So the year that they actually had it over in Beijing, he started swimming over there in one of the pools. His caloric intake, right, which is the energy that you burn normally, right? His caloric intake and his calorie burn went from like 8,000, it was like 7,500 to 8,000, all the way to 10,000 calories he was burning a day. He didn't change up his routine. He didn't change up anything that else he was doing. You know what the difference was?
Pool was colder.
The pool was 4 degrees colder.
Jeez, 4 degrees. That's like
4 degrees colder. That's the only thing. So that just goes to show you that that's what happens when you get into cold water, is what it does for for your calorie burn, right? So when you think about like, well, do I want to go do a HIIT workout or should I go do a cold plunge, right? Well, you're going to burn more calories more than likely just by doing 3 to 6 minutes of cold therapy than you are when you go to do a HIIT workout. It's absolutely phenomenal. So once again, another reason why I like it.
There's an important thing in that too, is the pressure of the water, because the pressure actually versus air, that they were talking about this on the Human Upgrade, that the pressure of the water, that's actually what the coldness and the pressure is actually what creates the brown fat. So like changing of that visceral fat is that the pressure that's allocated to that around the body, where it's like almost like this sculpting piece, whereas air is like this texture, like, it's going to get underneath your skin, but water, there's a pressure to it. That's so that it like kind of changes things just below the epidermis, and you're creating that brown layer of fat.
Yeah, that's really cool.
The one thing that I wanted to tap into, because I get a lot of these questions because I post some stuff on obviously cold plunging, but there's, cold plunging, I believe it's turning into a community. You probably got a community of people out in Wyoming already, but there's so many people. And now for me, I'm like, dude, it's so basic. But the people that always ask me, how do I get into this? Like, how do I get into this? And you always had mentioned, like, I started with cold showers, right? That's how I worked up. But there's so many people that are like, I don't know if I can do it. I just don't. Or they only get past a day, because as soon as the cold water hits their shoulders. Walk us through. What is the recommendations you're going to give? I told a guy that just reached out to me that I would do an episode on this. This is the episode. So walk us through that kind of the first timer feel on selling them in progression to obviously the chili dip.
Well, I think one of it is you got to know, like, why is it even attractive to you? Why are you even considering doing it? It's like any kind of goal in your life. Like if you're willing to go through something hard, you got to know why you're going to go through something hard, right? And so whether it's a physical ailment, like what I was experiencing, right, with some neuropathy and going, man, I just got to find a solution to this. Or maybe you're doing 75 hard and it's part of that challenge, right? If you look at the hard year that Andy talks about, you do a 5-minute shower every single day, right? And so, if you're looking for more mental fortitude, doing cold therapy is going to be one of the greatest things that you can do for yourself when it comes to mental fortitude on a daily basis. If you're looking for health benefits, right? Once again, there's amazing studies that have been out there. There was a group that they did in Germany of gentlemen that were average middle-aged guys. So they're about 50 to 60 years old. All of them were obese and overweight. None of them were active in exercise. They all had health issues. In fact, each and every one of them were type 2 diabetic, right? For 10 days, they put him in a room, and it was the temperature. They dropped the temperature significantly. So it was just uncomfortable, and they were in cold for 10 days, right? They still had all their snacks. They were not allowed to exercise if they wanted to try to heat the body up. So they had to continue to keep living in that. Shorts and a t-shirt. 10 days later, they were no longer type 2 diabetic.
Oof. Wow.
Because of what the body was doing for the insulin reaction, because we talk about brown fat, right?
Yep.
So when it comes to like right now in your life, if there's something, an ailment that's going on that that would be beneficial if you went into cold therapy, that if you started to do this, like your body's going to react in a way that's going to actually help you. So you don't have to be on medication. So you don't have to continue to go to the doctor, right? That you don't have to get prescribed something that's going to have another side effect that now you're going to have to get something to get that side effect gone, right? That's the thing that I would say is that you want to be looking at. And are you willing to go through some discomfort in order to help your body, help your body heal, have more longevity in your life, right? I was listening to a podcast this morning, randomly enough, Stephen Allen Smith, he's a commentator on ESPN and stuff. And he literally was talking about him and Steve Harvey having a conversation about his health and his wellness. And he's like, dude, I don't want to get into this cold. I don't want to go into the cold plunge. I don't want to go to the cold. I want to do this or this. He goes, you got to do it because right now your body's shutting down. And if you do not do something like this, you're going to go down a road and you're not going to be happy with what happens here in the next 5 years.
Man,
it was that important for him to do something. And he's realized since then, he's like, man, my mental fortitude is better. I'm able to do hard things and have harder conversations on a daily basis. And guess what? I have more energy. I'm more excited about life. I have a better attitude towards things, just because that's also another side effect of going into cold therapy on a daily basis is the hormones that get released.
Yeah.
And so I would just say you have to look at the benefits of what this is potentially going to do in your life. And if they outweigh the discomfort, then you got to push yourself to do it.
It really is that. Like, it's as simple as that. And then it's also acknowledging that it's hard as shit. Like I'm not, you're not going to like it. Trust me. Like it's not something but you're literally intentionally stepping into that layer of discomfort that is going to allow you to just push through a lot of things.
Well, it's like, which pain would you rather have? Would you rather have the 3-4 minute pain of ice, cold water on your body, or the pain of growing old with disease and being sick and not seeing your grandkids grow up, right? Like, which pain is worse for you, man? And that's like, you nailed it, bro, with like the purpose and like knowing why you're jumping in that cold water, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And misery loves company. And you talked about it earlier, is like just that community of people, like, share your experiences with it. Have and there's probably somebody else in your life that that's either doing it or should do it. So invite them in on the journey, right? There's something wonderful about that. Anytime that I've ever done 75 hard, I've done it 3 times. I don't like to do it. I don't want to do it alone. I want to be miserable with somebody else, and I also want that confidence from somebody else too, that they're going through it. And then I can also be a confident for them as well too. And so I would say that if you want to really get into this, if you think this is going to be beneficial for you, I guarantee you there's somebody else either doing it or needs to do it. And so invite them in on the journey. And I think it's going to be so much more enjoyable to do that.
And that's kind of like the premise behind this program we're launching called the Optimizers program for optimizing your human potential. It's going to be based around community. Like you're putting in the work, you're putting in the sweat equity with a team or with people that you can rely on to have accountability and be like, dude, like this sucks. Like, yeah, I know this does suck. This isn't easy, but here we go. Like, let's, like head down and push yourself. Right. Yeah.
And it's like, think about the destination. Do I want to get to the end and be like, yeah, I did it. I did it. There's no one there to celebrate with you.
That too. Yeah.
Like you want to be able to like, we did it. We did it together. Yeah. Like we did this. We were a team. I held you accountable. You held me accountable. We elevated each other.
It's weird to high five yourself.
Yeah.
High five yourself.
It goes back to rising tides lifts all boats, right? I think that's a crucial piece. So as we wrap it up, what are the future plans? I know that like, when is the launch? Because this is going to be early on. It might be when this podcast launch. When is the launch? And then what are the plans to get this thing get it rolling with the chili dip.
Yeah. So we'll be launching the first part of next year, so 2024. So
Okay.
we're hoping that we should have some products ready to ship by the end of January. And so, we're absolutely ecstatic about that. Really for us is the mentality that I look at is it's almost like we're going to do guerrilla marketing in that aspect, in the sense is that we want to be boots on the ground. This is obviously a deep passion for us. We want to be out there where our people are at, right? So the people that we know that are going to benefit from that really are looking for these types of solutions that we're offering through the chili dip. And so we're going to be at a ton of events. Obviously, we want to partner with the right people as well too, that have a passion for this as well. So the partnerships and the affiliates and the ambassadors that we have,
Cool.
That's really the way that we're going to do this. At the very beginning. And then as it continues to grow, then obviously we'll continue to grow in our market and our social media presence and such. But, really what we're trying to do is meet people where they're at and give them the confidence that you are capable of doing this, right? You're capable of taking on hard challenges such as getting into cold therapy. But also what we want to do is educate them in the sense of like, these are the benefits. And you might not even know this, but if you did do this, this is what it potentially could do for your life. And so I think that's the mentality that we have. And once again, it's just like you guys, what you guys are doing, you're just so passionate about it. So it's easy to get out of bed and go to work, right? It's easy to go out of bed and do the things, the hard things, the challenging things, because you know that like when you're able to connect with that person that needs this, it changes a life, right? And that's what not only the chili dip is, but a lot of the things that we do in our organizations, it's all about impacting people's lives. And so I'm so fortunate. And I just feel so blessed to be able to add this to the umbrella of the things that we do, because it is most certainly a deep passion for myself.
Real quick for the listeners, tell them where they can learn about this website, Instagram, whatever. And then I have a final question for you.
So a couple things. So I don't know when this podcast is going to go out. So either go to chilidip.com / launch. And if we don't have a product yet, so what you can do is you can get on the wait list and you can reserve your chili dip for $1. That just puts you in line to make sure that you're one of the first to get this. So chilidip.com / launch. If it's after we're released and we have products available for you, and like I said, we're going to have 10-day shipping for you, then you just go to chilidip.com. So nice and easy. We paid a good amount of money for that website name. So we're going to take advantage of that for sure.
That's awesome. So, we talk on this show all the time about like being well-rounded in your health, and that's how you optimize your life, right? So the name Full Fueled, we have these 6 pillars. It's fuel, movement, sleep, mind, work / purpose, and then spirit, right? And sounds like, cold plunging isn't a pillar, but it sounds like it kind of affects every single one of them. Tell us, man, what does it mean to you to live full fueled?
Brother, I appreciate that, man. To me, and I love what you guys are doing because it does so much resonate with me. I think in order to be full fueled, one is that it allows you to be 3-dimensional in your life, right? How many people do know that are just 1-dimensional? And this is why the other areas in their lives are complete train wrecks. So I think this idea of being full fueled and 3-dimensional in your life should be motivating to everybody to be able to go out there and look at what are the most important things in my life and how do I go and tack them fully. One of the other things that I try to live by is just this idea of empty the tank every day in every way. And so I'm going to fill it up, and I do that by biohacking and doing the things that you guys are providing and the things that are a passion for us, because I know like I'm going to empty that sucker throughout the day, because I'm pouring that out into the areas of my life that are important. So whether it's my family, whether it's my business, or whether it's the activities that I'm doing to challenge myself. And so I think just that idea of like, fully fueled, you got like, that's awesome. Why are you fully fueled? Well, you're fully fueled so you can go empty that sucker out.
Yeah. Damn, nice.
You live by that. That's a pretty amazing thing in life.
That is awesome.
That was great.
That was a great answer.
Yeah.
Well, that's a wrap. Thank you so much, Josh, for having you on, and live full fuel. Live beyond limits, baby. Brother. Let's go.